I took note of that was reported around June 19th, just a few days ago, was a situation revolving around Stormy Daniels, aka Stephanie Clifford. Many of you are aware of who Stormy Daniels is because she's the woman who came out in regards to her alleged sexual liaison with our current president, Donald Trump. Well, she's been in and out of the news for quite some time now. Her presence seems to have somewhat dwindled, finally. But whenever it dwindles, it seems that something suddenly happens to her to put her back in the limelight. And such an occurrence allegedly happened recently. It was reported by the New York Post as well as the Daily Mail. Okay, and I'm going to read to you the headline from the Daily Mail. That's where I'll read the story from too, because there's some very interesting themes around Stormy Daniels, and she's only about a degree of separation away from that push to defund the police, which is why we're going to talk about this today. Because even though, to my knowledge, from what I've seen on her Twitter account, on social media, at no point in time has she even mentioned herself the Black Lives Matters movement, but the woman who corroborated her story in regards to her sexual liaison with Donald Trump was none other than a woman known as Alana Evans, who is a very prominent pusher of not only Black Lives Matter, but specifically the Defund the Police movement. And considering that Alana Evans is not Black or African American, that's very suspect considering her direct tie to an individual who worked directly with organized crime, an organized crime group involved in sex trafficking known as the Luxury Companion. Because that Defund the Police, as I said, Defund the Police would enable sex trafficking. So I'm just going to read this to you. Again, this is on thedailymail.com. It's titled, Stormy Daniels says child predator tried to abduct her 9-year-old daughter from their home and claims cops refused to help because she couldn't produce a driver's license. Here's the points of the story. Daniels alleges a child predator tried to abduct her 9-year-old daughter, Kaden, from their Texas home. The porn star did not disclose specific details about when the attempted kidnapping took place, but she appears to have reported it on Thursday. Daniels claims she was stopped from seeing a detective because she did not have a valid form of identification. And lastly, earlier this month, the alleged former mistress of Donald Trump hid out at, quote, corrupt Trump-loving cops abusing their power, end quote. And this was written by Andrew Court for the Daily Mail. President Trump's alleged former mistress, Stormy Daniels, claims child predator tried to snatch her young daughter from their Texas home, and she says cops refused to help her. Now, before I continue, I am going to make something clear that I have been talking about for years, and I know a lot of people in the adult entertainment industry hate me for saying this, especially because they tend to target single moms to recruit into that world. But I'm going to tell you, I believe it should be illegal for active adult industry performers, active sex workers, to have custody of minor-age children. Not necessarily because they themselves would be abusive or bad parents, but because there are just far too many dangerous elements linked to the adult entertainment industry that could easily harm children, regardless of how hard the parent tries to safeguard their children. Also, I feel that it could dramatically psychologically affect a minor-age child's mind. I don't think a minor needs to have their identity brought into that world. It actually highly disturbs me that, at least from what I can see on Stormy Daniels' Twitter, she has been tweeting about her daughter's existence since her daughter was around 3 years old. I don't think her daughter's name should be in the mainstream media. I mean, I guess at this point, there's no way it wouldn't be, considering her mother's choices. But also considering that her mother appears to have cut off all ties with her own parents, meaning the child's grandparents, I find this particularly disturbing.
Stormy's parents divorced when she was around 4 years old. Tell us about the girl we're seeing in these photos.
That was my sweet daughter, Stephanie, the soon-to-be vet, horseback rider. She was a sweetheart.
Do you miss the daughter we're seeing in these photos?
Well, of course I do. She's my daughter. But that's her decision. It's not my decision. I didn't stop talking to her. She's the one that broke all ties with me and her mother.
You know what people are asking me, Willie? They're saying, hey, Joe, what does Stormy Daniels' estranged mother think of the brouhaha that is
There's breaking news on that this morning.
And what does she think,
Willie?
Well, Stormy Daniels' estranged mother, Sheila Gregory, has given an interview to the Dallas Morning News, and she sides in this argument with President Trump.
Really?
She's disappointed in her daughter. And she says if President Trump ran for president 4 times, she would vote for him 4 times.
If I knew Stormy Daniels, I would highly encourage her at this stage to try to connect with a family member maybe who could take on custody of her daughter, because Stormy's in far too dangerous of a position considering her professional choices and her political choices at this stage, in my opinion, to properly safeguard her daughter. So anyway, just to continue, this is what Stormy says on her Twitter. Hey, did you know a current passport is not considered valid ID, and the police won't even let you report an attempted kidnapping without a driver's license? Me either, she said. There aren't very many details about this supposed kidnapping in this story as I continue, but it almost makes me wonder, how did this alleged kidnapper come into contact with her daughter? Was this via a cell phone or social media or something? Was the daughter even maybe trying to run away from home? No, I just wonder. Anyways, the porn star then added, I went to the police station and they wouldn't even let me speak to a detective. An effing child predator has my address and tried to take my kid. This is strange. Daniels was referring to her only child, 9-year-old Caden, whom she shares with her porn actor ex-husband, Glendon Crane. I also wonder if this had to do with the ex-husband. I mean, that child of theirs, she's going to have such a hard time in life because both of her parents work in the adult entertainment industry. Her mother is infamous for her liaison with Trump. I don't even understand, truthfully, why the mother is still active in the line of work that she's in. I would have thought she would have transitioned into something else at this phase, but for some reason she hasn't. In her stream of tweets, Daniels went on to explain that her driver's license had been expired and she was unable to renew it at the DMV due to the coronavirus pandemic. She says she instead presented police with her passport as a form of identification, but was still unable to see a detective. The adult actress alleged the police officer at the station treated her poorly when she could not produce the required ID. Now, one thing I do want to mention or just note, and this is just me assuming, but seriously, the police in her area would be very well aware as to exactly who she is. Okay, so they knew who she was. I don't think anything's going to happen to her because it would be on that department if it did. But as I said before, one of her good friends, as of current, is very, very active in regards to pushing the Defund the Police agenda. And I'm talking about another porn star known as Alana Evans. Stormy Daniels needs to understand, as long as she has that connection with Alana Evans, she is going to be forever linked to the agenda to defund the police. She might want to cut that tie sooner rather than later. When I pointed out how much effort it takes to get a passport, he, meaning the officer, turned into a huge dick and made someone else show his ID on my behalf. I was effing floored, she raged. And why is she using this kind of language talking to the press? She needs to class it up a little bit. I mean, she's a smart woman. She needs to understand that being that she is a mother, she needs to present herself a little bit more professionally. You know, just because you're in a certain line of work or you have a certain history, again, that doesn't mean that you need to lower yourself. Her daughter's gonna have to grow up having everything that her mother said attached to her being the rest of her life. That is what her mother needs to think about. Quote, they were immensely unhelpful, and 24 hours later, no update. Daniels blasted in a separate tweet on Friday, seeming to suggest she reported the incident on Thursday. Daniels doesn't believe she was specifically targeted because of her star status. This person is not aware I am the mother and has messaged other children, she stated. So this is a very strange situation. I guess it's a lesson as to, you know, if you have a minor, they don't necessarily need to have access to social media too early or a cell phone, because I'm wondering how this interaction between the child and this alleged predator ever occurred. But I also wonder if Stormy isn't thinking too clearly in regards to the supposed predator not knowing that she's the mother of her daughter. The whole story is very strange. Daniels did not name the law enforcement station where she went to report her daughter's alleged abduction. Her last listed address is in a city in Texas. The Daily Mail has reached out to Daniels for comment. It seems Daniels is currently no fan of law enforcement, having previously hit out at Trump-loving cops in a separate tweet posted earlier this month. At this stage, you know, I really wish that Daniels would lay low. That tweet that she posted that was kind of anti-cops, and it is because a certain incident happened to her a little while back in regards to her being arrested. Someone tweeted her, Stormy always been a fan, always will be a fan, but seriously, why do we care about this lawsuit anymore? Too much real ignorance, oppression, and danger out there right now. So a rich person gets to keep their riches. Who cares? Let's focus on real issues. This was someone referring to this lawsuit that she's currently involved in. And she responded, you realize this was about crooked, Trump-loving cops falsely arresting me and abusing their power. They hurt several sex workers and people of color. They have been fired and arrested for it. Tell me how this is not relevant. It is more relevant now than ever before. So she's upset about that arrest that she went through. And look, I don't blame her. I would be upset too, but I wonder if she ever thinks of the following. Stormy Daniels claims that she was not a prostitute for Donald Trump. Okay, that's possible. But what she has to keep in mind is that hundreds of other women in her line of work, being adult entertainers, adult actresses, porn stars, have engaged in the act of prostitution. And due to their white privilege and the fact that many of their Johns are men of means, men of status, men of power in society, they got a pass. That law enforcement has turned a blind eye to them. So maybe she should take her arrest, which she did get out of, and which she was able to sue for, as taking one for the team. And let that be it. Because I am very concerned when it comes to this situation involving her daughter. If that situation is real, that means that that was a warning shot to her. And like I said, she needs to really think about who all she's aligned with at this stage. Because I didn't see that situation reported in the adult entertainment blogosphere, and I'm surprised about that. I didn't see this story reported much of anywhere. I don't know if anyone else saw any mainstream media coverage of it. If you did, let me know, because I sure didn't. So that means that someone's keeping it quiet. And when things like that are being kept quiet, it's a dangerous situation.